morning, everyone. My name is Deputy Nikki Daniel, and I am also the other criminal justice teacher at Harlingen South. I'm so glad that everybody could come here and make it. I know that the kids have put so much effort into this court case, and it wouldn't be possible without Mr. Robert Reyes. And I had to brag on him for a little while. He was just awarded Teacher of the Year. You can give him been a wonderful friend, mentor, colleague, everything in one, and your students or your children are so lucky to have him. I also just want to thank Judge Sally Gonzalez. If you just give us a wave right here. and Judge Eloy Cano that have let us use this courtroom to help bring this trial to life for our students. With this, we also have some community leaders and elected officials. If you could just stand up and wave when I call your name, that are just so excited to come here and see your children give this trial. Dr. Gina Monreal, HSID Board Trustee. Mr. Eladio Jaimes, HSID Board Trustee. Dr. Fernando Reyes, Harlingen South Principal. Dr. Joseph Arial, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools. Dr. Raul Alvarez, CTE Director. Judge Sandra Diaz, Municipal Judge of Gridiron. Dr. Jessica Rushka, Blending Learning Specialist. Mayor Norma Sepulveda, Mayor of Harlingen. Dr. Bonnie de la, Varial. Sorry, I messed that one up. Rio Vista Dentistry, Hayport. Maulud de la Paz, Hayport, member in Valley Baptist Public Relations. Daniel Lopez, Harlingen Commissioner, Litigation Counsel, Cameron County. Edward Sandoval, First Assistant District Attorney. Thank you all so much for coming out and supporting our students. Without any further ado, Mr. Robert Reyes.
Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. So what you're about to witness, what you're about to see is what we call a mock trial. It's a mock trial because they're reenacting what a real actual case is. So hopefully someday our attorneys here can be a real attorney. They've all shown interest in what they're doing, and it's going to show today. So I, as well as I'm sure you are very proud of each and every single one of these students. They put in the work. They put in, love, sweat, tears, like everybody says. But I'm super proud of them. And if you notice, the attorneys will be using their tablets because they have a lot to ask. But if you also notice, our bailiffs and every single witness will actually come out and they learn their lines by memory. So they memorize everything. So they put in the work. So the way we did this, the way we came up with this is I have two court classes. The morning class and the afternoon class. So what I did was, as an incentive, I told my first period, hey, the best person will get the part. Whoever puts in the work will get the part. So it's a mixture between them. So the classes, of course, they were competing. Oh, we're better than them, and oh, we're better. So they were just, trying to compete on the night. And I had to use the reverse psychology. Yeah, I don't know. Fourth period's doing pretty good. And no, first period's doing pretty good. No, we wanted to. So it just got that much better. And they put in the work, and I'm so proud of them. So I also want to thank everybody for coming out. And this just goes to show the leadership that we have in Harlingen for every single leader here. So I want to give another round of applause for them. So we're going to get started in a bit, and then at the very end of this case, I'll have all the students come out, line up, so that way y'all can take pictures. You're more than welcome to take pictures during the case. It's not a real actual court case, so you're more than welcome to take pictures at this time. Okay, so let me go ahead and let them know we're get started, and without any further ado, the Harlingen South Pre-Law Academy.
All rise. The Court of the Second Judicial Circuit, Criminal Division is now in session. The Honorable Judge Lopez is now presiding. Everybody but the jury may be seated. Bailiff, please swear in the jury.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will truly listen to this case and render a true verdict and a fair sentence as to this defendant? I do. You may be seated.
Bailiff Flores, what is today's case?
Your Honor, today's case is the people of the state of California versus O.J. Simpson.
Members of the jury, your duty today will be to determine whether the defendant is guilty based solely on facts and evidence provided in this case. Prosecution has the burden of proving the guilt of the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. This burden remains on the prosecution through the trial. Prosecution must prove that a crime was committed and that the defendant is the person who committed the crime. However, if you are not satisfied with the defendant's guilt to that extent, then a reasonable doubt exists and the defendant must be found not guilty. Is the prosecution ready? Yes, Your Honor. Defense, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Prosecution, you may proceed with your opening statement. Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my name is Bianca Sosa, and today we're here to answer a question that has been on the minds of the people throughout this past 7 months. Did O.J. Simpson really kill his wife, Nicole Brown, and an innocent friend of hers, Ronald Goldman? The answer to that question is yes. The evidence will show that the answer is yes. O.J. Simpson murdered Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. Mr. Simpson had been physically abusive to Nicole while they were married and was reported to have been jealous of other men who saw Nicole after the divorce. O.J. Simpson is a violent man who murdered his wife. To understand what happened, we need to examine the defendant's relationship with Nicole. You will see the motive for killing his ex-wife. He killed her for a reason almost as old as mankind itself. He killed her out of jealousy. He killed her because he couldn't have her. And if he couldn't have her, he didn't want anybody else to have her. He killed Ron Goldman for another reason. He killed Ron Goldman because he got in the way. What this defendant had for Nicole Brown wasn't love, it was an obsession. And that obsession became so great that when he came to realize that he couldn't keep her, he killed her. According to Nicole's autopsy, there were a total of 7 stab wounds to the neck and scalp, and it was all because of jealousy. The evidence will show that the face you see, the man you will see, is the face of a batterer, a wife beater, an abuser, a controller. You will see the face of Ron and Nicole's murderer. So when you see the evidence, put it all together, and consider the totality of circumstances in this case, the answer will begin to reveal itself. Defense, are you prepared to present your opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today you'll hear the prosecution argue that my client, O.J. Simpson, is responsible for the death of Ron Goldman and the love of his life, Nicole Brown Simpson. I think it's important that you as a jury keep an open mind and pay attention to the facts and evidence that the prosecution will provide. While they may use it to paint a picture of O.J. that seems like that of a murderer, you may find that some of this evidence doesn't work or works against their favor. You may even find that some of this evidence quite simply doesn't fit. Let us not forget that my client wasn't even present during the deaths of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. We must be fair in our judgment, make sure our justice system is true, and that the wrong man, O.J. Simpson, is not punished. Thank you.
Prosecution, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'd like to call Denise Brown to the stand.
Denise, please come to stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
Denise Brown.
Did you and your sister have a good relationship?
Yes, I loved my sister. We had a great relationship, spoke about everything.
How would you describe your sister?
My sister was a beautiful person. She loved everyone and was full of life. Her kids were her world. She would do anything for them.
That's great, Miss Brown. She seemed like a wonderful person. Now, let me ask you, how was she when she was with Mr. Simpson?
She was a different person.
What do you mean?
Well, at first, they seemed to be happy, like most new couples. But then, the cheating started, and the jealousy took over.
Can you explain to the court what you mean by cheating and jealousy?
Objection calls for speculation.
On what grounds?
The witness's statements are not considered reliable or factual. A witness' testimony is limited to the person's knowledge of events, not their opinion.
Sustained.
Thank you. Okay, Miss Brown. According to your testimony, you stated that your sister Nicole had told you about something she was afraid of. Can you please let the court know what you stated?
Yes. After putting up with all the violence with OJ, she told me one day at breakfast that she truly thought OJ would kill her someday. She told me that she kept pictures of her injuries hidden somewhere so she could have evidence.
Okay, what were in those pictures?
There were pictures of bruises on her face and back. She even had a torn lip and a black eye in some of the pictures.
Why didn't anybody see the black eye or say something sooner?
Makeup. And the day after he gave her the black eye, he took her on the trip to the Bahamas and prepared her to take any pictures because he wanted to focus on the relationship. By the time she came back, the black eye was gone. And she wore a lot of makeup.
So, what you're saying is, the day after her beating, he flew her to the Bahamas for a vacation in order to hide the bruises?
Objection, argumentative.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Defense, would you like to cross-examine this witness?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. Defense, you may call your first witness.
Your Honor, we would like to call Mrs. Marley Norris to the stand.
Ms. Marley Norris, come to stand, please. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you.
You may be seated.
Good morning, Mrs. Norris.
Good morning.
Mrs. Norris, were you working at the airport on June the 12th of 1994?
Yes.
And why is that date important to you?
That was the night that we met or saw O.J. Simpson at the airport, and later the next day this ex-wife had been murdered.
Did you observe Mr. Simpson at the airport that evening? How did he arrive?
Yes, in a limousine.
What time did you observe the limousine?
Approximately 11:20 to 11:25.
When he stepped out of the limo, did he acknowledge you?
Well, as he got out, I had said, "Hey, what's up, O.J.?" and he walked to the back of the limo.
Did he respond to you at all?
Yes, he did.
What did he respond?
He said, "Hey, what's happening?"
Did he look at you when he said that?
Yes, he did.
About how far away from you was he?
I'd say approximately about 8 feet.
So about from where I'm standing to you right now.
I would say about the same distance.
Can you tell us how Mr. Simpson appeared during the time that you saw him?
Well, he appeared just normal, like he was getting ready to get on the flight.
Did he appear to be rushed in any way?
No,
Did he appear to be distracted in any way?
no,
Did he appear to be preoccupied in any way?
no,
Now, during the period you saw O.J. Simpson, did you get to observe his hands?
yes,
Did you see any cuts on his hands?
no,
See any band-aids on his hands?
no,
Any bruises on his face?
no,
Did he appear to be sweaty?
no,
Did he appear at all to be out of the ordinary when you saw him?
no.
Okay, so he seemed normal enough to have small talk with you.
Yes, I would say so.
Thank you, Ms. Norris. No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Norris, are you a good friend with Mr. Simpson?
Yes, I would like to think so.
Ms. Norris, are you obsessed with Mr. Simpson?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance?
Overruled. The witness will answer the question. No, I wouldn't say obsessed.
When you say you saw him at the airport, were you studying his hands very carefully to see if there was any injury to him?
No, I wouldn't study his hands.
So then how can you state that Mr. Simpson had no injuries to either of his hands? You did state that, correct?
Well, yes.
Could you tell if my hands, or even if Mr. Gaitan's hands, had any injuries today?
No, I didn't notice.
Okay, so how can we believe or trust that Mr. Simpson had no injuries before he left for this flight? There is no evidence or solid proof that Mr. Simpson's hand was not cut. You're just assuming that. Is that correct?
Well, I guess not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'd like to call Destiny Alvarez.
Thank you.
On two.
Please raise your right hand.
Connected.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Ms. Alvarez, how many years of experience do you have as a 911 dispatcher?
8 years.
Okay. And were you a 911 operator dispatcher on January 1st, 1989?
Yes, I was.
And were you on duty between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning on that date?
Yes, I was. The call came in at 3:58 a.m. and it has my operating number. It shows the console I was on and the incident number created.
So the call came to you, right?
Right. It was an open line.
Could you hear anything over the open line?
No. At the beginning, no.
And did the line remain open?
Yes, it did.
While the line was open, at any point in time, could you hear anything?
Yes.
What did you hear?
At first, I heard a woman screaming. So I went back and changed my incident type from an unknown trouble to a screaming woman.
And did you hear anything else?
Yes.
What did you hear?
I heard someone being hit.
You heard a noise that you associated with someone being hit?
Yes.
And what did you do with that information?
I went back and updated to the fact that I heard a woman screaming in what I thought was a slap. I then went back and changed my incident type to a female being beaten at the location to give the responding officer an indication of what was going on, that it was no longer an unknown trouble. I also brought up the necessary frequencies to broadcast the bureau wide and for the air unit to assign a unit.
And have you listened to the 911 call you received at 3:58 in the morning on January 1st, 1989?
Yes.
And when you listened to the tape, could you hear slaps or strikes?
I could in remembering the call. I could determine after the first scream, then I heard someone being hit.
Your Honor, at this time, we would like to play the audio recording of the 911 call.
All right, just confirming that the defense has knowledge of these tapes.
Yes, Your Honor.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Defense, will you be cross-examining?
Yes, Your Honor. As we listen to that tape, could we hear you typing?
Yes.
Are you a pretty fast typist?
I don't know, maybe?
Since you didn't talk to anybody, you don't know whether or not there was blows being passed between two people or what the situation was.
When the call came at the beginning?
Yes, ma'am. Although what I'm asking you is that you hadn't talked to anybody, so you don't know what was going on at that location.
No, I do not.
All right. Now, at some point you typed in and you described for us in your computer, female being beaten at the location could be heard over the phone. And that was what you concluded after you heard this woman screaming?
Yes.
At any time, did you Did you ever talk to any of the parties that were actually at that house?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, would you like to recross this witness?
No, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. Defense, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, we would like to call Natalia Willard to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Good morning, Mrs. Willard, and thank you for coming.
Good morning.
Are you a little nervous?
Definitely.
Mrs. Willard, the reason you were called up here is because your testimony is that you walked by Nicole Brown's house that evening of June 12, 1994, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What was your business walking by Nicole's house that evening?
I was walking home from a date that I had earlier that evening at the restaurant Mezzaluna.
Do you recall what time you left the restaurant?
I would say at approximately 10:15 p.m.
Around what time did you and your date walk by Mrs. Brown's house?
At approximately 10:30 p.m., give or take a couple minutes before or after.
When you walked by that area, did you notice anything unusual?
No,
Hear anything unusual?
no,
Did you hear any barking dogs?
none.
Did you see the shape or silhouette of a person when you walked by Mrs. Simpson's home?
No, I did not.
Was there anything unusual whatsoever at approximately 10:30 on June the 12th that you recall when you walked by the home of Nicole Brown Simpson? No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, would you like to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Now, tell us, is it your testimony that you walked past 875 South Bundy sometime between 10:20 and 10:30?
I would say at 10:25.
So if you were walking down Bundy, passing 875 South Bundy at 10:25, that means you would have crossed Dorothy at 10:26.
Correct.
To your knowledge, ma'am, are you aware that someone testified they looked outside their window from that location and saw no one walking down South Bundy at 10:25?
Objection, Your Honor. Cause for speculation.
I'll rephrase the question. Because of the contrasting information given to us, can you absolutely confirm that while you were walking down 875 South Bundy at that time, you saw absolutely no disturbances?
I was walking down the street and I can promise you, I didn't see anything.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Defense, would you like to recross-examine?
Not at this moment, Your Honor.
Witness is excused. Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We call to the stand Officer Robert Risk.
Officer Robert Risk, come stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. You may be seated.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Robert Risk.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a police officer for the Los Angeles Police Department.
How are you involved?
My partner and I were the first two to arrive on the scene.
When you were at the scene of the crime, did you touch any of the evidence? And if not, why didn't you?
I tried not to touch any of the evidence because I didn't want to disturb the scene of the crime.
All right. In the course of your duties in the past 4 years and 10 months, how many crime scenes have you had to protect or preserve? And how many of those have been those of a homicide?
If I were to estimate, I try to preserve probably around 20. More than half of these have been homicides. Probably around 15.
What did you see when you first arrived at the crime scene?
When I first arrived, I saw a white woman face down on the floor. She had a pool of blood pulling beneath her. It was flowing towards the sidewalk. In the blood, I saw a heel print, and on another side of the blood, I saw some paw prints. Near that was a letter next to the fence.
Did you find anything when you searched the rest of the area?
Well, when I made my way to the back, I found a knit cap and a glove that appeared to have some blood on it, I believe.
After you finished searching and preserving the crime scene, what did you do?
We just maintained security until the detectives arrived. After that, they relieved us of our duties.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Officer Risk, have you had any training in the sensitivity of DNA?
No, I have not.
At some point, you described for us that you went inside the house.
Yes, I did.
Records show that you picked up a phone and inspected it.
That's correct.
Prior to picking up that phone, did anybody dust it for prints at all? Did you even have gloves on?
No, I wasn't wearing any gloves at the time.
Did you write out a report regarding your observations that you made that particular morning?
I mean, I wouldn't call it a report. I mean, a statement.
Okay, well, you wrote out a statement about your involvement on that particular morning.
Yes, I did.
In writing out that statement, you tried to be, of course, as accurate as you could.
I mean, I wrote down what actions we took, but I didn't write down everything. No.
You didn't write down everything. No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, would you like to recross the witness?
Not at this time.
The witness is excused. Defense, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, recall to the stand Dr. Zamora.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. You may be seated.
Dr. Zamora, could you state your name for the record and what you do for a living?
My name is Dr. Eric Zamora, and I am a physician and surgeon.
And when did you see Mr. O.J. Simpson first as a patient?
The first time I saw him was on June 15, 1994.
Did you notice any inflammation in the hand area?
Objection. Your Honor, what relevance does this question have to
Well,
do
since
with
you're so eager to know, we are trying to prove that O.J. had a pre-existing injury.
Yes, I did. He had multiple areas that were enlarged.
Which hand were you referring to in the previous question?
I'm talking about the right hand.
Did you find any evidence of bruising, scratches, cuts, or abrasions?
No, I did not. Not on the right hand.
How about on the left hand?
Yes, I did.
Would you describe that to the jury?
His third finger had an abrasion that looked like a fish hook.
In your professional opinion, what might have caused the cut on Mr. Simpson's left hand,
I believe it was some sort of sharp object.
but not from a knife, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is leading the witness.
Overruled. Dr. Zamora, please answer the question.
A knife is a possibility, but to me, the edges looked a little bit ragged, which in my professional opinion will be more consistent with glass, but certainly a sharp object to do that.
Okay, so in your professional opinion, it was more likely from a piece of glass, not a knife. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, will you be cross-examining?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Zamora, what other types of medical examinations did you perform on Mr. Simpson?
I conducted evaluation of his breathing, his heart, his joints, and conducted a grip test because of his history with acute arthritis.
Acute arthritis? Where exactly?
Well, Mr. Simpson has a history of severe cramping on his hands.
Okay, so you conducted a grip test. And what were the results of that grip test?
The grip test results came back good. Normally, when we conduct the grip test, the monitor will indicate any cramping or severe shock from the arthritis. His test showed no signs of acute arthritis within at least 5 days.
And when did you conduct these tests on Mr. Simpson?
The day he flew back from Chicago, Ms. Zavala called me in as soon as I could come.
So, just to be clear, your test showed no signs of his acute arthritis?
That's correct. He actually scored fairly high on the scale. He had a lot of strength.
Would you say he had enough strength to pull Nicole's hair back and slit her throat?
Objection, Your Honor. The counsel's making their own conclusion. Dr. Zamora said no such thing.
Your Honor, my question is not concluding anything. I'm simply asking if it is a possibility.
Overruled. Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you. I'll rephrase the question. With respect to Mr. Simpson's history with acute arthritis and your grip test, would you say it would be highly unlikely or highly possible that Mr. Simpson would have the grip strength to pull Nicole's hair back and slit her throat with so much force it almost decapitated her?
According to the grip test results, yes, he was completely capable of doing that.
Thank you. No further questions.
Defense, would you like to recross-examine your witness?
No, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Ron Ship to the stand.
Ron Ship, please come to the stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. You may be seated.
Were you an LAPD officer? If so, when did you join?
Yes, I joined in 1974.
When did you leave the LA?
I had left around 1989.
Mr. Shipp, are you acquainted with the defendant in this case?
Yes, I am.
How long have you known him?
Approximately 26 years.
As years went on, did you develop a closer relationship?
Yes, I believe we did.
You said that OJ, or the defendant, trusted you.
Yes, he did trust me.
And did you trust him?
I did.
Did you ever meet Nicole Brown?
Yes.
Were they married at the time?
No, they weren't.
Okay. And did you consider Nicole Brown a friend?
Yeah, me and Nicole were friends.
Do you and the defendant remain friends today?
Yes, we are.
During the time that you were a police officer, did Ms. Brown ever call you to tell you about her problems with Mr. Simpson?
Yes, she did.
And did you just talk to her over the phone, or did you go see her?
We talked over the phone, and she said that she had wanted to see me in person to show me something.
And when was this?
This was May 12, 1994.
Well, that's 1 month before the murders. And did you notice anything unusual about the day you saw her?
Yeah, she was wearing a lot of makeup, so I couldn't really tell anything was wrong, but I picked up a little something, and it was her head. It was a little swollen, but it looked like she had covered it up pretty good.
She had makeup on,
Yes, she had makeup on.
covering her injuries,
Right?
but you could still see.
Yeah, a little bit.
And did you have a conversation with her at that time?
Yes, we did.
What was her demeanor during that conversation?
At first she was joking, how we regular talk, and then she started getting a little serious and telling me about what happened between her and OJ. And she showed me some pictures.
What parts of her body were depicted in those photographs?
If I remember, it was her left arm and her left upper thigh.
The photographs that you saw, sir, of Nicole Brown's left arm and thigh, did you know any injuries on those parts of her body?
Yes.
What did you see?
There were bruises, just dark, colorless bruises.
What did you tell Nicole Brown you were going to do?
I told her I was going to meet with OJ.
And did you meet with the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Relate to us the content of that conversation, please.
Well, he told me that they had went out to go to a party and they were having a good time. He said that they were having a little bit too much to drink. They were partying a little bit too hard. And so when they had gotten back home, they just started getting into an argument.
Did he say what the argument was about?
Yes. They were making love and Nicole wanted to stop for whatever reason. And we started arguing.
Did he tell you what happened next?
Yes, he said that Nicole was the aggressor and she had pushed herself onto him and he was acting in self-defense.
Did he say what he did to Nicole was in self-defense?
Yeah, he said that when she came onto him, he pushed her. He didn't really hit her, but he did put his hands on her.
Did you ask the defendant if you beat her up?
No, at the time I did not.
Okay, continue on then with the conversation you were having with the defendant regarding the batterer's profile.
Yes. Can you repeat the question, please?
What happened when you were talking, when he was explaining to you what had happened?
He had explained that they had gotten into the argument and Nicole Brown, she had pushed herself onto him, like I said, and he said that he didn't want to hit her, but he said that he didn't hit her, and he just pushed her in self-defense.
Now, moving on. You told us you heard on Monday, June 13th, that Nicole Brown was dead. Is that right?
Yes, as soon as I heard, I was in OJ's house to try and support him.
Did you notice anything unusual about the defendant's hand at that time?
Yeah, I noticed his left hand, on his finger, there was bandages. It was a white bandage on his finger.
Did you pose any questions to him at that time?
Yes, I did. I asked him how he cut his hand, how he cut his finger.
And what did he say?
He said that he did it back in Chicago.
Did he ask you any questions about the investigation?
Yeah, once he told me what they had found in his house, he asked me how long it would take for a DNA test result to come back.
And at that time, did you know the correct answer to that question?
No, I did not know the correct answer, but I didn't want to leave him hanging, so I guessed and I told him it would take 2 months.
And what did he say to your indication that it takes DNA 2 months to come back?
He jokingly said that he's been having dreams of killing Nicole.
Did he say how many dreams he had of killing her?
No,
Did he say it was more than one?
he just said dreams, plural.
Thank you, Mr. Shipp. No further questions at this time.
Defense would like to cross-examine the witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Upon hearing the news, did you try to reach someone at the Simpsons home? When you dialed the phone number, did someone answer?
Yes, it was an investigator.
Was this investigator Maya Berman?
Yes, sir, it was.
Tell me everything you can recall about this conversation when Maya Berman picked up the phone. First of all, what's the first thing you asked?
I asked, did OJ kill Nicole?
Did you ask Maya Berman about any of the evidence?
No, not at all.
Did Maya explain to you why she was answering the phone at 10 o'clock?
Yes, she said that Nicole was dead and they were investigating a homicide with Nicole Brown and Ron.
Was there media outside that you recall knowing about?
Yes, there was helicopters flying above.
There came a time where, as you said, Mr. Simpson walked to the bedroom. According to your version, he asked you to join him.
That's right. We walked up the stairs together.
It was during this time while you and him were in the bedroom together that a conversation took place.
Yes, he had asked me about the investigation and, no, I had asked him about the dreams that he was having. And he just told me that he would have these dreams frequently.
Okay. Well, pertaining to the case more so, and perhaps evidence that may have been found in this case, did he tell you anything particular?
Yes, he told me that they had found a bloody glove from the cat.
Didn't you take Mr. Simpson out to the back of the garage where the glove was supposedly found?
I didn't take him.
Have you ever lied?
Never in court. Reporting back information is lying.
You didn't tell the police about an important conversation you claim occurred.
Right.
Did you have a conversation with an investigator working on my behalf?
Yes.
What is the reason you didn't say anything about the conversation?
Me and OJ are friends. I didn't want to be the one going down as the person that nailed OJ.
Now, you were a police officer for how many years?
15 years, sir.
Were you prepared to share intimate secrets about your friend to a total stranger without the promise of being anonymous?
Yes.
Now, from 8:15, a member and his family sat with him because he was so grief-stricken.
Shirley, his girlfriend, she didn't want him alone at the time.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution would like to cross the witness.
Not at this moment, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. Defense, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, we would like to call to the stand Dr. Andrea Barrera.
Dr. Andrea, please come stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. You may be seated.
Dr. Barrera, could you tell us what present position you hold?
Currently, I'm the laboratory director for Connecticut State Police Forensics. I'm certified to handle and oversee trace evidence and blood spatter interpretation.
Dr. Barrera, did you observe both socks? And if so, whose socks were they?
Yes, I observed both socks, both belonging to the defendant, O.J. Simpson.
Now, can you tell us what you were able to observe?
Both socks were in one bag and one envelope. After further testing, it was confirmed they in fact had Nicole Simpson's blood present. The outside of the left ankle was cut out for DNA testing to confirm our theory.
All right. This picture contains the phrase, wet blood transfers, in relation to the picture of both socks. Could you please explain that?
Because both socks were in one bag, this could lead to contact smears, otherwise known as wet blood transfers. This would mean that blood would have to be in its wet stage in order to be transferred to another area or object, because once blood dries, it can no longer be transferred.
And why wouldn't you put such a wet object, into a paper bag?
Because a transfer can change the pattern of its original state. This would be an indication that blood would have had to be in its wet stage in order to leak onto the opposite side of the sock where we hadn't found it previously.
Dr. Barrera, can that also be considered as cross-contamination?
Yes, it can.
No further questions.
Prosecution would like to cross-examine? Not at this time, Your Honor. Witness is excused. Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
We would like to call up to stand Candace Garvey.
Candace Garvey, please come to stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
You may be seated.
Please state your name for the record.
Candace Garvey.
How are you connected to Nicole Brown Simpson?
I'm her close friend.
Did you attend her daughter Sydney's recital on June 12, 1994?
I did.
And did you see the defendant there at the recital?
I did.
Did you arrive at the recital with Nicole Brown?
No, I did not.
Were any of your children participating in the recital?
Yes.
When you saw the defendant inside the recital auditorium, did you notice anything unusual about him?
I did.
And what was that?
He was just not the same as I've ever seen him before.
How was he not the same?
Well, in the normal situation, he's a very happy, charismatic, gracious, kind person. But I immediately noticed there's a vast departure from the normal norm. He just seemed a little vacant and non-responsive.
You said things to him and he did not respond?
That's correct.
What kind of things did you say to him?
I said, hello, hi, how are you? And he just stared at my husband and I with no response. And so I said, I have a baby. And he just stared at me and said, yeah, and he told me. My husband walked away at the time, but I almost couldn't even move. I felt very uncomfortable. I knew something was wrong.
His demeanor on June 12th, how did that compare to his demeanor on that other occasion when you saw him angry?
Objection. Relevance.
Well, on that occasion, he was vocally and physically angry. But this time, it was like he was simmering. It's hard to describe, but when he stared at me, it felt like he was looking right through me.
Did you ask him what was wrong?
I did not.
Did you sit with Nicole?
I did not.
Did you sit in the same row that she sat in?
I did not.
Did you see where the defendant sat during the recital?
Yes.
Where did he sit?
He sat on the right-hand side of the auditorium on the last row.
Was he seated next to someone else?
Yes, I believe so.
And where was Nicole seated at that time?
Well, when I was leaving the recital at one point, I saw her on the right-hand side of the auditorium on the last row.
Did you ever see the defendant sitting in a corner?
Yes, that's where I saw him in the back corner.
On the occasion when you saw the defendant seated in the corner of the auditorium, did he appear angry?
Yes.
Was the defendant paying attention to what was going on stage?
When I was leaving, I saw him, and he wasn't paying attention.
Did you notice anything unusual about the defendant's facial features at the recital?
Objection, Your Honor. The prosecution is leading the witness.
Yes, that his jaw was locked. It's just I've never seen him like that
Thank you. No further questions.
Defense would like to cross-examine.
No, Your Honor.
Witness is excused. Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. We'd like to call Maya Furman to the stand.
My affirmative, someone stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Please state your name for the record and your profession.
Maya Furman, and I'm a detective for LAPD.
How long have you been employed with the LAPD?
I've been employed for 19 years and 6 months.
Detective Furman, can you tell us how you feel about testifying today?
I feel nervous and reluctant.
Now, directing your attention to the year of 1985, were you a patrolman at the time?
Yes, I was.
Did you respond to a radio call which led you to the location of 316 North Rockingham, Brentwood?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us what the nature of that call was?
It was a family dispute.
Where did you go when you first arrived at the location?
I believe we turned onto Rockingham, which led us to the Ashford gate, which was open, and I walked up the driveway.
Who did you see?
I saw Mr. Simpson and a female.
Did they happen to be doing anything in particular in the driveway that was brought to your attention?
She was leaning on the hood of the car, and he was just standing there.
And what kind of car was that?
Mercedes-Benz.
Can you describe the female that you saw leaning against the hood of the car?
She had her hands covering her face, so it was hard to tell what exactly she looked like. But she had light-colored hair, and for height and weight, I would say about average.
Okay. Did you notice anything unusual about the Mercedes?
The front windshield was shattered.
Did you look to see what had been the cause of that windshield getting shattered?
Yes, there was a baseball bat at the front entrance of the residence.
Now, did the woman say anything to you at the time that you made contact with her?
I made some inquiries as if they were the residents, and he said he owned the house. And I asked the lady who broke the windshield, and she said he did.
Did the defendant make any response?
He admitted that he broke the windshield, but stated that it was his.
And what was the defendant's demeanor at that time?
He was agitated, not out of control, just agitated.
Okay. Did you see any signs of physical injury to the woman?
No.
And did you ask her if she wanted to have a report prepared?
Yes, I did.
And her response?
She said she did not. No.
After the female indicated to you that she did not want to file a report, what did you do?
I left the location.
Let me back up for a second. The woman that you saw crying up against the Mercedes-Benz, did you have since determined who that was?
Well, since it has been told to me, yes, Nicole Brown Simpson.
Did you attempt to persuade her to seek prosecution for the incident?
No, I did not.
Were you working on June the 12th and 13th of 1994?
Yes, I was.
On the evening of June the 12th, did you receive a call at some point that night?
Yes, I did.
What were you told in that call?
I was told that we had a double homicide, and to meet my commanding officer at the station so we could get a vehicle with a homicide kit and go out to the crime scene with it.
Were you told anything about the identity of either victim?
Detective Phillips mentioned that it might have been the ex-wife of Mr. Simpson.
And where did the caller tell you to go?
They told us to go to 875 South Bundy.
What time did you get there?
We got there around 2 a.m. That's when we checked in with the officer that was taking log.
As investigators.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what was the condition of the crime scene when you got there at 2:10?
There was, the scene was taped off, and a lot of the alleyways and streets were blocked off by police cars.
Did you make contact with the first officer that found the bodies?
Yes, I made contact with Officer Risk.
When you met with Officer Risk, what did you do?
He gave me a very general description of what he saw and how he arrived.
Okay, please explain to the court what you saw.
I saw a woman laying face down in a black dress and a pool of blood, and the blood was trickling down the walkway in the cracks of the walkway.
All right. And what were you able to see from that vantage point other than the female victim?
I also saw a white envelope and the feet of a male victim, and Officer Risk also used his flashlight to point out that there was a knit cap and glove.
And a cap and glove?
Yes.
Did you happen to have any further interactions with Officer Risk at that time?
I asked him if there was another way to get to the scene,
And why was that then?
because if not, we'd have to step into the blood.
Okay, so basically you were trying to get a better look without disturbing anything.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Maya Furman. Now, please tell the court, was the second glove found at the crime scene?
No, it was not.
Did you ever find the second glove?
Yes, I did.
Where did you find the other glove?
It was behind Mr. Simpson's residence between a bush and the wall.
Who was the first one to see that glove?
I was.
How do you suppose that glove got there?
Objection, Your Honor, lack of personal knowledge.
Sustained.
So when you found this glove over at Rockingham, you knew that you'd be on this case as long as it lasted, didn't you?
I'm not sure. I couldn't make the implication at the time.
You didn't know that the glove could not be put in evidence as a criminal case without the person that said he found it? Did you believe that you would be an essential witness if you were the first to find an important piece of evidence?
Again, I couldn't make the implication at the time. I didn't know what the glove meant in the case.
Well, you told us the minute you saw it. You thought it looked like the one on Bundy, didn't you?
Yes, but I said it looked...
But you're a trained detective. You should already know this kind of thing. I mean, all a police officer
Objection,
does.
Your Honor, the defense is badgering the witness.
Detective, please answer the question.
Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe if you asked differently, I would give you a different answer.
Didn't you tell us yesterday, when you spotted that glove over there sitting on the prosecution's table, you claimed that it looked similar to the one on Bundy?
Yes, I did.
Did you point out to Detective Phillips that not only did it look like the one on Bundy, but it appeared to have a substance on it that was moist and sticky, which could have been blood?
It appeared to have a gleam of glisten to it.
Okay, but I'm asking if you told Detective Phillips that.
I could have.
Did you bring it to the attention of Detective Lang?
Again, I could have.
You don't have memory of any of those conversations.
I don't have a memory of making a specific comment about the glove now.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. Prosecution?
Your Honor, at this time, the people ask that Mr. O.J. Simpson trial on the glove be covered at the crime scene.
We have no objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Simpson, please step forward, comply with the people's request, and face the jury.
Where does it fit? These gloves are too small.
We ask that Mr. Simpson makes a fist with his right hand. Can we ask that Mr. Simpson grasp an object with his hand, perhaps a marker or a pen?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Defense, any last requests?
We wish to call to the stand Maya Furman again.
Maya Furman, come back to the stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Detective Furman, was it in your testimony earlier completely truthful throughout all the questions that they asked you?
I wish to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
Detective Furman, have you ever falsified a police report?
I wish to look like this in record.
Detective Furman, is it in your intention to assert to your Fifth Amendment right with all questions I may ask?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you. Actually, Your Honor, may I ask one last question? Detective Furman, did you plant or manufacture any evidence in this case?
I wish to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
That is all. Thank you, Your Honor.
The witness is excused.
Your Honor, with your permission, our client would like to make a statement.
Make it quick.
As much as I would like to address some of the misrepresentations made about myself and Nicole concerning our night together, I am mindful of the mood and stamina of the jury. I have confidence a lot more in this part because of their stamina and of their integrity. They'll find as a record standing now that I did not, could not, and would not have committed this crime. I have
Okay, that's enough, Mr. Simpson.
17 years. They asked me to be dad. How much longer? How much stronger? Thank you.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense rests. State rests, Your Honor.
Both the prosecution and the defense have now rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their final arguments. Please remember, what the attorneys say is not evidence. However, do listen closely. They are intended to aid you into understanding the case. Prosecution, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the jury here today from the bottom of my heart. You have made a tremendous sacrifice for this trial. You haven't seen your children, your family, or your loved ones enough, all in the name of service and justice. Your dedication and selflessness has not gone unnoticed, and on behalf of the prosecution team, we would like to thank you for your patience and sacrifice. The scariest homicides are always the ones where the bad guy is handsome, charming, someone who doesn't look like a murderer. That threatens our sense of security. We want to believe that murderers will look like what they are because then we can steer clear of them, strictly as a matter of our personal security. We want to know. We want to know. And when we can't know, and we are deceived by the appearance of a pretty face, then our sense of security is threatened by that. Our life experience tells us that we cannot predict what a killer will look like. We cannot say that this one does or that one doesn't. We know it's a command of common sense. You can sit next to a killer in the movies. You can stand behind them in line. You can stand in line for the bus with a rapist, and you wouldn't know it. Well, the same is true for post-homicidal conduct. No different. What exactly do you expect someone to do after they've committed a murder? If he wants to get away with it, he's going to do everything that he can, and that's just common sense. So whatever his image is of someone who isn't guilty is the image he will try to project. And to the extent he is accurate in determining what that is, to the extent that he has an image that comports with our own of what an innocent person will do, we will be deceived. Now, Mr. Simpson is not the first killer to commit murder and drive a car, to commit murder and fly in an airplane. They don't wear neon signs saying, "I just committed murder." I know there's common sense. But there are certain things he can do. Things that tell you it was not business as usual on the night of June the 12th after he murdered Ron and Nicole. Now, I'm standing here today to do my job, to use evidence and witnesses to prove that Mr. Simpson is guilty. But at this point in the trial, I believe the only thing that can truly convince you of the point at issue are statements of fact. Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were brutally murdered. That is a matter of fact. That is the cold hard truth. So, let's discuss the facts. 3 blood stains from the rear gate and 5 drops of blood on Bundy Drive were tested and produced DNA profiles consistent with O.J. Simpson. That is a fact. Tests of right hand glove found at the crime scene also produced DNA profiles consistent with O.J. Simpson being present at the scene. Also a fact. The matching glove was found behind O.J. Simpson's guest house. It was saturated in blood, and tests revealed DNA belonging to both Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. Fact. Shortly after the crime, police collected blood samples from a vehicle belonging to O.J. Simpson. Tests of the samples collected showed DNA profiles consistent with O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown Smith, and Ronald Goldman. Wouldn't you say, ladies and gentlemen, that the facts speak for themselves? In the course of murdering Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, O.J. Simpson cut his hand, allowing drops of his blood to be found at the crime scene, leading away from him, in his car, and even on his property. Additionally, blood splatter transferred from the victims to O.J. Simpson during the murders have been transferred from his car to his person and from the glove. That is our case, based on all the evidence and facts we have laid before you today. Now, the defense will tell you that this evidence has been mishandled during the investigation. They will say that it has been improperly collected. And while I wish I could completely deny this, it is true. Evidence has been mishandled during this case. But even with the mishandled evidence pushed aside, what are we left with? Enough testimonies, enough evidence, and enough facts to prove that O.J. Simpson murdered these two people. You must not ignore the mountain of evidence against O.J. Simpson. I haven't even spoken about the motive. You haven't even heard the why he did it, and you know he did it. Now, these murders did not occur in a vacuum, and it's a very important evidence that you've heard at the beginning of this case. They occurred in the context of a stormy relationship, a relationship scarred by violence and abuse. And this important evidence completes the picture of the defendant's guilt, as it explains the motive for these murders, and shows you what led to this defendant sitting here in this courtroom today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Defense, you may proceed with your closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what I'm going to do is discuss the reasonable inferences which I feel can be drawn from the evidence. You are empowered to do justice. You are empowered to make sure that this great system of ours works. Have you ever been falsely accused of something, knowing that you were innocent, although maintaining your dignity and remembering always that all you're left with after a crisis is your conduct during it? So that's another reason why we are proud to represent this man. This man who has maintained his innocence and has conducted himself throughout these proceedings. Now, the prosecution has a lot to talk about how Mr. Simpson would beat Nicole Brown. But this case isn't about physical abuse. It's about the murders of Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown. We are trying to find out who really murdered these innocent people. In the evidence, consider the EAP being found under Nicole Brown Simpson's fingernails, where they try to come in and tell you it's a degraded BA. There's a reason why they didn't want to pursue that. It's because she may have scratched somebody with a B type. Our client has type A blood, which couldn't have been the blood type found in Miss Nicole's fingernails. When in this trial before you, we discovered that evidence had been moved at Bundy, and the key piece of evidence, the piece of paper, had disappeared. They didn't do anything to find out about it, that we know of. I'm concerned about those things. So much of essential facts are just shot through the roof with reasonable doubt. There's something terribly wrong about the way they handled the evidence. There's missing blood. There's EDTA. There are seriously, deeply troubling questions. You must distrust it. You have to distrust it. You cannot render a verdict, in this case, beyond a reasonable doubt on this kind of evidence. If you do, no one is safe. No one. Each essential piece, I think, is far to say. There's some reasonable doubt, and some. Some of these are so profoundly disturbing in the terms of manufacturing of evidence. I'm sure you really can't fight it. Not in this country, not in this democracy can we allow dishonest, manufactured evidence to lie at the heart of a case like this. And of course, you know the Bronco. How can you trust it? How can you trust the way they handled it? Chain of custody. Then the gloves. The gloves did not fit. The gloves didn't fit. Reasonable doubt. That is, many, many reasonable doubts embedded in all of that. But you know, there's a fourth C. Contaminated, compromised, corrupted. But the fourth C has to do with cover-up. This case is a tragedy for everybody. For the victims and their families. For the Simpsons family, and they are victims too. They lost the ex-daughter-in-law for the defendant. Someone has taken these children's mother. I certainly hope that your decision does not take their father as well, and that justice is finally achieved in this case. Now, as it comes time for me to conclude my remarks, I may never have the opportunity to speak to you again. As you have been told many, many times, these are very heavy burdens placed upon the people, and for good reasons. To prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, you will do the right thing. You have made a commitment for justice. You will do the right thing. Don't be a part of this continuing cover-up. Do the right thing. Remember, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. If it does not fit, you must acquit. That if these messengers have lied to you, you cannot trust their message. That this has been a search for truth. Thank you all for being here. Sorry. God bless you all.
Members of the jury, you have all heard the testimony concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine the facts. You and you alone are the judges of the fact. Once you decide what facts the evidence proves, you must then apply the law as I gave it to you, to the facts as you find them. The court will be on recess until the jury is deliberated and they reach a verdict. All rise! All rise! Everybody, please be seated.
You did a good job.
Does the state recognize the presence of the jury?
We do, Your Honor.
And does the defense?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor, we have.
Would you hand the verdict form to the court deputy, please? Will the defendant rise along with the counsel? Will the jury please publish the verdict?
Yes, Your Honor. As to count one, we, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Samuel James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being as charged in count one of the information, so say we all. As to count two, we, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Samuel James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of the Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Goldman, a human being as charged in count two of the information, so say we all.
All right. Thank you, juror. Please be seated at this time. Mr. Simpson, a juror of your peers have found you not guilty on your charges. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I am now going to excuse you from any further service on this trial. The burdens that we put upon you were enormous, and words cannot begin to express the debt that we owe you for your time and patience that you have provided to us. So thank you very much. The case is adjourned.